My name is Elin, I'm 28, I'm currently working as a consultant at Church of Sweden, and I'm from Sweden. I grew up in a small sort of village with 4,000 people in, with my mother and my younger sister. My parents were divorced quite early, and I suppose it was in the beginning a quite normal upgrowing, and when I turned 8, my mom had an accident, which led to, in the long run, her getting an alcohol abuse problem. And I don't know, other than that, I think I grew up, from the outside looking in, it looked pretty good and pretty normal. At home, my mom was the kind of person that wanted to do everything, so we had nothing at all to do with the household, really. She was strict and she wanted us to follow her rules. It's pretty much the only thing she wanted from us, I suppose. The thing with her was that she had a problem to emotionally bond to us after the accident. She was there but not there, if you know what I mean. School was awkward. I started out school at 7 as a very dominant and loud-mouthed girl that sort of dictated for everyone. And after the accident, I withdrew. I felt awkward around the other kids. I felt out of place and I didn't really belong. Never felt that until I got in my 20s, that I belonged anywhere. So I was an outsider and I was not really liked by the other kids. I was too silent, too awkward and too shy. I always was the outsider. We grew up, everybody else had their 2 parents, and my mom and my dad hung out with bikers and they had their motorcycles and stuff like that. And nobody else had that in that very small community. And I don't know, after the accident, I suppose both me and my sister felt different, because none of the other kids had this experience and didn't have to deal with these things. And as we grew older, we felt more and more awkward, because we had these secrets we had to hide at home. When mom drank and there was arguments and stuff like that, and we're not supposed to talk about them. So I suppose all the secrets made us different, made us feel different around the others. Because I was the same person. I was quiet and I did what I was supposed to do. I wanted to make everybody happy, and I always felt that I wasn't enough, because I couldn't fix the problems at home and I couldn't make the other kids like me. So I pretty much was the same person, but I was a kid that very, very badly wanted to be liked, I suppose, at the time. I never really felt that it was awful in school with other kids. I just never felt like I belonged with them. I was always a bit outside. The teachers were nice, but you don't know them. They're the grown. It's sort of an awkward thing that you go to school, almost all your awakened time you spend at school when you're younger. You spend more time with your classmates and your teachers than you do with your parents, and these are adult people that you don't know, really. You have this sort of relationship that is based on that you are their work. And it's hard sometimes if you when you realize that in a certain age, to actually bond to that person, even if that is the main adult reference you have from the time you start school until you're almost adult yourself. I had one when I was in my teens, in high school, I suppose. She was very nice and she was very caring. But I had an entire sort of adult childhood with keeping secrets and not even being able to talk to my father about them or with my grandparents. And if I tried, many times that was sort of, I don't know, shut down to, we don't talk about this. You have to talk to your mother or whatever. So I don't suppose I didn't trust anyone, even if they tried to. And I'm guessing here, but since this has happened, it can change. I don't really know, but I'm guessing that to have that trust, they would have had to work very, very hard. And I don't know if they didn't know how to earn trust in that way, or if they didn't have the will to. I put my mom on a pedestal all of my childhood. It was the number one person I wanted to be acknowledged by and liked and loved by, and she couldn't. And I fought very hard up until I was like 14 for her to like me, and when that didn't work, I did the opposite thing and did everything I could for her to hate me, because if she had a reaction, at least she knew that I was there and that I existed sort of in her life space. So she's been the most important person all through my childhood in, I suppose, all the wrong ways. And she was never a bad mom or abusive against us or something, anything like that. She was just emotionally not there for us. She could not respond to us in the ways, I suppose, parents and children should connect with each other. My father and I had a relationship and still have the relationship today as if we were friends. He's my dad by blood, but he's not my father. He hasn't provided much in raising me and giving me much of anything in that way. I love him and I like him, and I have a great time with him when I meet him. But I don't call him if I'm in trouble or I need support or something like that. He's a friend. My sister was the baby, so for as long as I stayed in the home, she could do nothing wrong. When I moved out, that relationship changed a bit. But she's always been the youngest one, and she's always been treated like the youngest one. I'm not really, it doesn't bother me at all in that sense, but she lived with my mom for quite a long time, and they have a different relationship than me and mom has. The first sympathies I had, I was 13 at the time when the first sort of signs showed up, and it wasn't really directed only towards, because I'm a former right-wing extremist. It wasn't just towards them, it was towards, because I grew up with bikers, towards Hells Angels and Bandidos and groups like that. And I think it stems partly from my mom had a big interest in the wars. It was a war in Sweden between Bandidos and Hells Angels during the 90s, late 80s, early 90s. And she was very interested in that. And when I turned 13, Swedish newspapers did a common thing and went out and published pictures of 64 threats to democracy, with names and where they lived and what they worked with, and full facial frontal picture of 64 people. And that was my first contact and first time I actually sympathized with sort of, for me, I suppose, being that age, I saw it as a big injustice doing that to someone. They were separated from the rest of the community as being something different, something that shouldn't be there. And I could relate to that specific thing, because I felt like something that didn't belong. And my sort of interest grew with that, because media wrote a lot about right-wing extremists in Sweden at the time. And I read everything with big interest. And I had the fortune, if you want to call it that, to be in the beginning of sort of when these organizations found their way out onto the internet and started to sort of, I don't know, talk to people that way. I went public and went all in when I was 16. At the beginning it was just the fact that they were sort of, I don't know, singled out as different. And the more I talked to people, I think not so much that I felt any connection to the politics in the beginning, but more to the people, that we were others like me that had it rough at home, that felt alone, and people that, I don't know, was just like me, was different and felt different and needed other people just like them, sort of. And if I talked about how I felt and my problems, they sort of came in and was supportive of me. The things that maybe I should have had from a more productive, from adult people in my realm, if you want to, teachers and I don't know, people working at the youth centers and stuff like that, they gave me from this point of view instead. I was given a purpose with me and a worth to my person and to my life from them, and I didn't have that before. So I sort of got a new family during these 3 years. Most of them were sort of, young themselves. It wasn't as much as, talking politics, it was just friends. And I had few friends. And they just happened to think about these things, and I was happening to think about the same things. And sort of being drawn to the same, sort of, I don't know, feeling different and wanting to sort of, I don't know, to make yourself unique. You want to almost make it permanent that you are outside. You enhance the feeling of being outside, and you start to want others to think the same thing. I felt different, so I started to make myself different. I started to not wanting to belong to them, to the people around me. Yeah, well, the communication started mostly through these youth sites. You could have different groups, like on Facebook you have different groups. If you like a special thing, you can join the group. And they had that there as well, and if you could join a nationalist group, for example, and others did the same thing, and then you could sort of, I don't know, talk to some of the members there if you wanted to, and that's mostly how we communicated back then. Because I was pretty, I don't know, lonely with wanting to be this different. But the thing is that I think the reason it was just this group was because that was the group that was presented to me at the time. It could just as well be in another group if that had been presented to me at the time. But these people were there at the time in that kind of way. And I mean, personal contact and friends, that came later. I was maybe 15, 16 when I started to meet people. I think it was a general thing, more like that. The thing was that I could feel outside in that sort of sphere as well. But when classmates and friends and family sort of pushed me away, these people sort of, even if I felt different still, sort of embraced me and supported me. And I sort of turned from trying to please all my friends and classmates and family. I tried to please these people instead, because they were giving me responses instantly, and the others, they weren't. So it wasn't a specific person, it was a specific feeling that these people sort of gave me, that I was wanted here. Then they became the reason, as opposed to a specific feeling. But that's also a thing with, I suppose, being a teenager. Every teenager comes to a point where you come to an age where friends, specific friends, or a boyfriend or a girlfriend, becomes more important than, say, family for a while. It's a part of growing up. I just had the misfortune in some ways that these people had a specific view of the world that they wanted to convey to me. We could have specific sort of subjects that could be appealing in the way that I was a kid with great grades and political interest to begin with. And when you talked to these, they had sort of, could be attractive ideas surrounding family, surrounding school, surrounding respect and how you should treat each other. And then they were specific towards a particular race, how they should be. And I was sort of searching for where I belonged, and also in an age where I needed to, you need to sort of, I don't know, go from this childlike everything is black and white, or it's either right or wrong, and you need to get these grays in between. And the thing is that's really hard to understand. And this was a sort of organization that gave me, I could still keep on living in a world that was just black and white. They were telling me what was right and what was wrong. And I could sympathize with all these things, with how we should bring up children, or that what rights women should have, and that they should be, that women and children should be taken care of in a specific manner and protected, and being interested in school and workers' rights and stuff like that. And then I could have problems with other things, because I grew up in a family with we have, if you want to call it that, I think it's weird, but biracial children, for example. I have an older sister that has 3 kids with a man from Iraq. And I had that when I went into this organization. And then that could be very hard for me to sort of, I don't know, defend to myself that I was with, that these were things that I was supposed to believe in when I had people surrounding me that I loved that didn't fit into this sort of roles that you're supposed to have. They weren't supposed to be worth as much as me and my friends or whatever, and they were blood, you know what I mean? I needed to be seen enough to sort of, I don't know, just give that away. It's sort of when I worked at Exit, I used to say to, when I when I talk to school children, it's a rape on yourself, on your mind. That you're so desperate to belong and to be seen and to be worth something that you can just give that away. It doesn't matter that you know that it's wrong. It doesn't matter that that means that you, to certain people, should hate someone you really love. You just do it. You act to belong. And the longer you are there and the more people you lose, the more you start to believe it. Because every time someone burns a bridge to you, that just sort of confirms what they told you. The friends that I had before that wasn't in this particular organizations themselves, we sort of lost them person by person, I think. I had a few of them sort of sympathizing for a while, thinking it was cool, you know, hanging out with skinheads and doing weird stuff. But they dropped off after a while as well. My family, that was a relationship that sort of grew colder and colder for every day that I was there. I lost contact with my family for 2 years during my active period, when I didn't speak with them much at all. I saw them at Christmas and we put on our happy faces and pretended everything was fine. My stepmom noticed. I lived with my father for 6 months, and she noticed the music and the friends that popped over and stuff like that. But I don't think they didn't try to talk me out of it. They tried to sort of scare me out of it. So they kicked me out after a while. It was just, they didn't know how to handle it. And I think that's the problem, because how do you handle that? It's something, when you have a child that believes these things, how do you handle that? Because there's no excuse, do you know what I mean? Mostly you sort of, I don't know, you do what normal teens do. You hang out and then you have this little extra spice. And then instead of going to a Justin Bieber concert, you go to this kind of concert instead. And it's like that, but you do what every teen do. But then you have these political elements in the background all of the time. And you have these people that's there for I don't know, they want excitement, or they have an aggression issue, and this is where they can let them out in a very bad kind of way. And you have that sort of always in the background in your life. I hated everybody. I can't, that's just a fact. You take every emotion you have. If you feel sad, that's being weak. So you get angry instead. And you feel depressed, and that's weak, so you get angry instead. And if you love someone too much, that's also being weak, so you get angry instead. You sort of take every emotion you have and sort of change it to being angry, because that's an emotion that makes you feel powerful. And let's face it, we're a group of teens. We have no power at all. So everything could be a source to anger in every way. During all of my active time in this organization, everybody I knew had similar problems. I mean, you might not have. I was very much a stereotype with my mom being an alcoholic and my father being very much not there, and being sort of not the it girl and stuff like that. But no matter which kid I met when I was active, they had the similar needs. Not similar problems, always. It could be from a middle class, very nice family, both parents, and they were attentive, but I don't know, something slipped through the cracks. But everybody had a need to be seen and loved and wanted, sort of. They wanted to have, I don't know, you need a purpose. They were looking for like the meaning of their lives or something like that, and we gave them a purpose with their existence. They were there to save the white race, sort of. It's all basic needs that should be they should be really easy to fulfill within the family or within the society, and this group of people make it happen for you when everybody else just fails with it. It's only when I leave this organization that this is something that we discuss in my family. They sort of just they pretended it wasn't there and it would go away, and I didn't really care actually, because they didn't seem to care about me, so why should I care about them? It was a combination of very, very many things. I'm 13, I'm starting sort of high school, changing schools, new kids. I'm the most uncool person in the world. I get no response on the fact that I feel awkward around the people that I suppose have to hang out with all of my sort of almost vacant time. My family is sort of denying that there is a problem at all, and I'm just, I don't know, I feel lonely and sort of abandoned, and there's too much new things, and then puberty hits at the same time, and just all of these things without anybody noticing sort of that this is happening, because I don't know, it's a phase, right? I suppose. And family members, there's a lot of them that I turned to and wanted help from, that didn't really respond to it. And people in school, my teachers, the woman that had the cafeteria where we hung out in school. We, from the age of 16, I hanged out with a group of older people. We're a very mixed group of people from the age of 15 to like 30 maybe. Many of the older girls and guys there noticed that something was wrong, but they didn't really want to bother with it. I was sent to counselors and stuff, and everybody just kept telling me that this is not my field. We were kids that, when we came up to a certain age, sort of, I don't know, cut class and stuff like that. I had a cafeteria in school where everybody sort of hung out and played board games and just chilled out and talked. And the same woman was there every day, and she favored a couple of the kids, but she was there sort of all the time. And she could sit down and talk to you and stuff like that. And we were there a lot, so she saw us a lot. She came and talked to us. Most of us that were hanging there were problem kids, so we talked and we talked. It was the kind of person that you sort of confided in. Everybody did. All these problem kids. She had a gift for that, and it's too bad that she wasn't given the resources to really use that gift, because when you had a tough time, you went and talked to her. But there was little she could do for you, really. And I don't know, I went to a high school where there was a lot of immigrants, and I might not have talked to her about this specific thing that was going on in my life, where I was drifting. In that case, I was talking more to her about, you know, feeling weird amongst other kids, and I don't know, being different and all these sort of things. But that could, I don't know, that's the real thing I wanted to be, that I wanted to be seen. There was the situation that I wanted someone to see and help me with, really. And had that happened before it was too late, before I drifted too far into this organization, then I would never have gone into it at all. The kids that end up in, I don't know, in these sort of organizations or thoughts at all, it's not the kids that, you know, feel good about themselves, have hobbies, or are acknowledged. They don't end up there. I mean, the kids that are there are sort of, I don't know, broken in some way. And for the most part, it doesn't matter how you're seen, you just want to be seen. And any option given to these kids could work. I mean, when I went to Exit and we had group activities, went bowling and stuff like that, just being with other people, sort of that's not judging you or showing that you have talents that you're not really aware that you have, and you're sort of, I don't know, supported to do stuff that you're sort of scared of doing, often helps. And I think it doesn't really matter what you give them, what the option is, as long as it's positive and as long as they sort of, I don't know, want to join in, that's a good option. It's much like, I don't know, like a religious cult. I mean, as long as you have all these sort of, I don't know, ideas that you're on the, you know the truth and nobody else does, and we are the chosen ones in some way, and we have a purpose. We are supposed to save someone from these horrific, awful enemies that we have. And you have people that keep telling you that, and the doubts don't ever really surface. They are there because you know that somewhere along the line these things don't go together. But you want to believe that you're doing good, and you want to believe that you have made the right choice. So you sort of choose not to listen to that inner voice. Because how do you live with that I made the wrong choice and I did all of these things in vain and I was the bad one? I mean, everybody has one. All of my friends that was in this organization had one. You know, the guy that owns the pizza place on the corner is all right, or my neighbor is all right, or this guy is all right. And you can see that behavior all the back to, I don't know, Germany and the Second World War. My neighbor, is a you, but she's all right. The one that I know. But then the bigger picture, I don't know. For me, being this black and white in my thought all the time, that there's only evil and there's only good, there's never something in the middle. Sort of, I don't know, saw a lot of injustice, got sort of needed someone to blame on. And from them I got given someone to hate for all these injustices that I saw. And then sort of you get taught to ignore the injustices, that the injustices isn't just happening to you, but to everybody. But it's easier to just have someone to blame everything on, instead of trying to understand all of these sort of nuances. And then sort of he became okay because I knew him, and I didn't know everybody else from Iraq or Somalia or wherever they came from. I knew him, but I didn't know them, so they were easy to blame all of this stuff on.